G'day, and thanks for tuning in again. Today we're going to be talking about the trade-offs in photography. You may already know what I'm talking about. I'm really looking for more subscribers. I want to break into the 20s. I know it sounds lame, but please don't kick that subscribe button for me. If you want a roundhouse kick it, that's fine. Don't kick it, that's fine. If you want to give it the old 1-2, that's fine too. And hey, we're learning photography together. Wow, okay, that was really exciting, but we're talking about the trade-offs in photography. And this came about because I had a job the other day. It was a wedding, and at the venue it was right on the cusp of sunset, or the sun was very low, and it was streaming into the venue, backlighting the bride and groom and all the guests and everything that was happening. So I was in a bit of a quandary, because in order to expose for the bride and groom and the activity, I had to either drive my ISO really high, or open up my lenses, or slow down my shutter speed. In regards to lenses, I was already shooting with one lens at f1.4 and another one f1.8, and I really didn't want to drive my ISO higher, but because it's a client job and I wanted to deliver really clean images. So in order to get the extra light, I decided to slow down my shutter speed. But of course, and straight away I know what you're thinking, slowing down the shutter speed then introduces the risk of motion blur. And yes, I did get motion blur, but it was a trade-off. You know, I could either drive the ISO and get grain, or I could slow down the shutter speed and try and get nice clean images, and then work on the skill of taking the photograph without the motion blur or without the camera shake. Also, shooting wide open, it then introduced the problem for me that it was really difficult to hit the focus. I mean, shooting at f1.4, you can literally have the tip of someone's nose in focus and the rest of their face completely blurred. You know, the field of focus, or the depth of field, is so narrow at f1.4. And depending on your hyperfocal distance, you know, it does vary. So it is quite tricky to make sure to hit that focus. So in these situations, it's often better to stop the lens down so you can bring more into focus and hit that focus better. Because, I mean, worse than motion blurred shots are shots that were just out of focus. So, you know, but everything was a trade-off. As soon as I decided to stop down my lens to bring more into focus, then I was compromising light. So then I had to slow down the shutter speed, and then I'm giving up sharpness, and, you know, then I had to drive the ISO higher, and then all of a sudden I'm giving up the cleanness of the image. I'm introducing more grain. So as you can see, it's a real trade-off in photography. You don't get something without giving something up. You can't adjust one of the parameters without affecting another parameter. You know, you tug on the ISO and you're bringing grain, and you tug on your aperture and you're narrowing your depth of field. You tug on your shutter speed and introducing motion. So many things. You know, one day we might get the perfect camera that can deal with all of those things and produce the perfect image, and it may be out there already. But the equipment I'm using, and that most of you and I are using, is now incapable of hitting every one of those zones that we're looking for. We have to compromise. So with that in mind, and knowing that, we have to prioritize what we're looking for in the image. If I think back to this job, firstly I was prioritizing clean images. I wanted clean images, I wanted no grain. Okay, then I was prioritizing focus. I wanted a bit more depth of field to make sure I could get the focus, and in the end I had to shoot at f1.4. I had to shoot wide open, so there was no way I could deal with that. I was always compromising focus. And then the third priority for me was sharpness, or the motion blur. You know, that came last. I thought that the answer to all my problems was to slow the shutter speed down. Then I'd have clean image, then I'd have good focus. And not to be, you know, because the environment didn't allow for it. It didn't allow for me to pull on one of the axes and make everything right. So that just comes down to show how lighting, venue, environment has so much effect on photography. But in order to make the best of a bad situation, you have to give up something to get what you're looking for. Woo! Oh, I've got to tell you, all those front kicks at the start have really made me work up a sweat. But hey, thanks for watching. It was just a real quick one to talk about the trade-offs in photography. There's always a compromise. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any other ideas, let me know. If you have any thoughts about other trade-offs in photography, leave them below. Always interested to hear your thoughts. And again, as I said, just uppercut that subscribe button. Video 1, 2. Hey, have a look at these videos from last time. Thanks a lot. Catch you next one.